So, what could possibly happen in these beanbag round cases? There are reporters that got a hold of files that they probably shouldn't have gotten a hold of. We're talking 143, um, was it subsection G files, and sensitive crime scene images, like gory pictures and stuff of crime scenes and pending cases. And, you know, it's for me, it's perplexing that I have done open records requests before to certain government bodies, and they cite those exemptions to withhold records from me and other people that I know, your average, everyday people. But for some reason, these reporters get a free pass, and they get those records, and they get to write stories that a lot of people just don't have the time to do research on. And then the rabbit hole goes even deeper. These same reporters are texting with these government officials and going to meetings together and meeting up and texting. I mean, it doesn't look good, at the very least. There are reporters that know things, and I've done open records requests for communications between these reporters and these government officials. And it shows things that you would have to be in the know to realize there's some illegal activity here. Sensitive crime scene images, pending cases being passed, and for, materials about it. And maybe there's some exemption that they can pull out of their hat so that it's perfectly fine to pass these materials. But when the everyday person asks for these materials, I mean, they can't withhold it now because they've already released it. But you try and ask for material on pending files about stuff that hasn't been released yet, I guarantee you Travis County District Attorney's Office is going to say, sorry, that's under an exemption as for an AG ruling, and will likely not give it to you after 45 business days from the AG. Yet, one reporter got G files in 24 hours within asking for it. Another reporter got pending PowerPoint presentation, or pending case PowerPoint presentation on internal affairs. And these reporters cannot generally cannot be compelled to testify where they get their sources from. They have, was it reporter's privilege? Everyday people do not. So if an everyday person goes out there who has no stake in the fight either way other than, my own safety and the safety of my other neighbors, no such protections. And it's harder to get those records. In fact, I'm going to have to pay for them. I don't have a news organization behind me that's going to help pay for these records requests. The reporters that have the backing of a news organization will probably pay very little or nothing for these records and get exclusive access, things they probably should not have gotten. Everyday person has to pay for those records. Likely doesn't have those resources at their disposal. And there's going to be a fight along the way, and you're likely going to lose unless you can take it to court and have the money to do that and the time. Figure out what actually happened. It's just the way it is. Sorry. Maybe the way it is, but you gotta ask yourself, is that right? Shouldn't people know the truth of what's going on in their government? Or is that just a crazy idea? I have a day job. Um, and I didn't care about this until I saw it. But I saw people's lives affected by beanbag rounds that were expired, officers trying to do the right thing by showing that information was being withheld. All these people are just they're poker chips to the people in charge. Chief of police and an elected DA. Because ultimately the DA decides who gets charged and who doesn't. There could be crimes in front of him right now, and he could say, sorry, not charging that. And the only thing he has to worry about is a public outcry. So it's almost like the DA has an incentive to not be transparent about what he charges and doesn't charge. September 22nd, 2021. After a long process of 7 candidates, Chief Chikun is selected to be the next police chief. September 23rd, 2021. According to a metadata gathered off these G files, these files are scanned by a Xerox Work Center printer scanner. 24 hours. And Chief Chikun, when you look in the him going to City Hall on September 22nd and all the videos, he's carrying a binder that has a speech in it. And he's carrying something else, some type of leather bound portfolio, something. And it's got these pure white papers in it. It's kind of thick. Perhaps it's just notes. Totally possible. So I look at other days that he goes to City Hall. Perhaps he just takes a lot of paper with him, ready to write stuff down. I don't see that same binder again. I looked at 3 other occasions where Chief Chikun should have had, in my opinion, this binder, because that's something he usually carries, right? I don't see it again. This binder is very close in time to when the G files got scanned. It looks like the G files were printed out and scanned again. Almost as if a digital trail would be hard to get on how these G files came to and from. And what are these G files even about? There's a separate case where a detective goes on a crusade about evidence being withheld by the DA, and the detective being told to take, I want to say, about 60% of his slides out of a PowerPoint presentation for grand jury to present an indictment before a grand jury. And there are accusations from this detective that he was told not to present certain evidence before a grand jury. He was not to discuss certain things. Exculpatory evidence showing innocence. A attorney named Doug O'Connell filed a complaint, and an investigation came together, and all the while Chikun is trying to become the next police chief. He's interim chief, but he wants to be the next police chief, the official chief. Why, I don't know. I mean, that's just his thing. So you have a police chief that gets a call from the DA in some morning, and according to these G files, the DA chewed Chikun's ass. And there are accusations from other officers that the DA threatened indictment against the police chief. And this is before he got selected to be police chief, right? So the DA wanted to see the G files. The police chief wanted to be police chief, and if he could help it not get indicted. For some reason, the DA, I guess, didn't get records. You know, they got those G files and like less than 2 weeks, but they could not get any records on what happened with these beanbag rounds until the statute of limitation was up on the it would prevent going after the leaders of APD. So instead, I guess to maintain face, they go after people under them. The DA's still going after APD. They're going after the officers involved that had the beanbag rounds and used it against protesters. After what I've seen, it seems quite probable, far more probable than not, that these officers, most of them, had no clue those beanbag rounds would perform the way they did. That they would go in an unpredictable trajectory, and that they would overpenetrate in such a way where beanbag rounds had to be surgically removed from people. It was a dirty secret at APD that only a few people knew about, and those few people raised some hell to try and change, but it just never changed, and then 2020 happened. At the end of the day, you had two high-level elected officials with poker chips in their hands, and they exchanged them. The everyday person was none the wiser. And these are powerful people that are professionals. They deal with these situations. We have processes in place to deal with complaints. The leaders of APD may never answer to this. May. The DA builds lots of plausible deniability into his actions. But some of these records do remain, and the circumstances look very suspect, in my opinion. What's going to happen? You know, are we going to encourage a culture where if a Austin Police Department officer sees problems with a certain type of equipment, he'll bring it to the attention of APD, and hopefully someone will do something about it, right? But leader of APD that saw a thing about those beanbag rounds, you know, I don't think they're all at fault. It's likely that there are lots of things pressing at APD, and that who would have guessed that a mass protest would happen in 2020. But it was a very smart move to let the statute of limitations expire. So they're off the hook, and we go after individual officers. It's a tricky situation. But what does the everyday person get out of it? I guess we'll find out.